Emirates. The Assembly will now hear a statement by His Excellency Muhammad JUSUF KALLA, Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia. I request protocol to escort His Excellency. I have great pleasure in welcoming the Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Muhammad JUSUF KALLA. I invite him to address the Assembly.
Madam President, let me begin my congratulations to you and your assumption to the presidency of the 17th session of the United Nations General Assembly. It is a great honor for me to stand here and share Indonesian perspective on the year General Assembly with the timely theme, the United Nations at 70, the road ahead for peace, security, and human rights. On its 17th anniversary, the UN has reached quite a ripe age, the same age as the Republic of Indonesia this year. On this occasion, I wish to highlight 3 points: the achievement on the UN in the past 70 years, current challenge, and the way forward. Firstly, the UN 17th anniversary is good momentum to look back and reflect on the UN progress in realizing the ideals of its charter. The 70th anniversary of UN has been signified by the adoption of post-2015 Sustainable Development Goal. At this opportunity, I would like to convey my sincere appreciation to UN Secretary General for his leadership and steadfastness in the process. Another success story of the UN is certainly its peacekeeping operation, which has contributed to maintaining peace and security. Indeed, the UN has been relatively successful in preventing and overcoming major global armed conflict in the past 70 years. Currently, more than 100,000 personnel are involved in 16 ongoing peacekeeping operations worldwide. Indonesia is proud to be the 11th largest police and troop contributor to NPKO with over 2,700 personnel, and yet my country is prepared to contribute more in the future. Meanwhile, the establishment of the Human Rights Council in 2006 has created a peer-based review mechanism which reflected the collective effort among member states to strengthening of cooperation and dialogue in the promotion and protection of human rights. Madam President, notwithstanding the achievement of the UN, we must be complacent. Indeed, there are still numerous challenges of confronting us. As we speak, there are still numerous armed conflicts around the world. The suffering of the Palestinian people is still taking place, while the realization of two-state solution is still elusive. The recent conflict in Gaza has caused over 2,000 human casualties, displacing more than 5,000 people. Sectarian conflict, including the threat of ISIS, continue to threaten political stability and cause multiple humanitarian crises in the Middle East, especially in Syria, Libya, Yemen, and elsewhere. Violent conflict have not only torn countries and nations apart, but in Syria, ISIS has also destroyed remnants of a great ancient civilization that it is our shared historical legacy. We ask, has the United Nations done enough when faced with this unfolding and recurrent tragedies? Radicalism, violent extremism, and terrorism continue to pose a serious global threat. Indonesia has consistently played its role in addressing this threat. including their underlying root causes, among others through interfaith and intellectual dialogue, sharing of best practices in the counter-terrorism, as well as strengthening international cooperation. Indonesia has also set successful example in resolving conflict through dialogue and peaceful means. In August this year, we commemorated the 10th anniversary of the signing of Helsinki MOU on Aceh, which ended around 30 years of armed conflict. We wish to recall and once again appreciated the positive contribution of the European Union and ASEAN through their monitoring mission. We note with concern that there are little progress made in the work of the UN Disarmament Commission. We still lack the necessary political will for nuclear disarmament. Meanwhile, the small arms and light weapon trade, legal or otherwise, is still a multi-billion-dollar industry. We also witnessed the wars make work UN Disarmament Commission. We still lack the necessary political will for nuclear disarmament. Meanwhile, with small arms and light industry, multi-billion-dollar industry. We also witnessing the worst year for human displacement and irregular migration since World War II. Due to the political crisis, sectarian conflict, and other humanitarian crises globally. In the past, we've seen a flood of refugees fleeing from violence in Syria, where well over 100,000 people have been killed to seek a safe haven in Europe, despite the dangers and hardship they have to endure in the way. We also ask, does the United Nations have sufficient political will to face this issue? Meanwhile, economic disparity, poverty, and global inequality continue to haunt us. Even today, more than 800 million people around the globe are suffering from severe undernourishment. The rich nation, comprising a mere 20% of the world population, consume 70% of the world resources. In many parts of the world, women, children, youth, persons with disability, the elderly, people live in a conflict and emergency situation remain marginalized and untouched by the progress of development. 20 years after the conference of the parties of the UNFCCC, we have yet produced a universal agreement on climate change. In the context of trade, we have yet to see progress and concrete results from the Doha Development Agenda to support a rule-based, open, and equitable multilateral trading system. The recent Ebola outbreak has strongly reminded us of the importance of building strong and resilient health systems globally. There are many other problems we are facing that also need to be addressed, such as intolerance, youth unemployment, and uncontrolled urbanization. All these challenges are related to the lack of progress in the UN reform. Let's join hands in overcoming this challenge. Here, the role of regional institutions such as ASEAN should become more important to complement the UN. Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we must work together in realizing peace and prosperity for our people. We have to stop conflict and eradicate global inequality. We have to stop the spread of radicalism and violent extremism. We urgently needed to realize the UN reform. With its current 196 members as compared to 60 in 1975. The UN system has to be even more inclusive and better reflect current global geopolitical conditions. With regard to Palestine, we must ensure the build of sovereign and independent Palestinian state. We must ensure the realization of SDG in a timely manner. We hope that upcoming climate change conference in Paris could seal the long-overdue agreement on climate applicable to all countries, with the aim keeping global warming below 2% Celsius. We urge the UN to work more effectively through partnership with regional mechanisms to better address national and regional challenges. In this regard, the ASEAN needed to be even more actively engaged in UN process in seeking better solutions to our global problem. And in narrowing global disparities, we should encourage and support the strengthening of South-South cooperation. In this context, Indonesia will establish the ASEAN African Center as a follow-up the 2015 ASEAN-Africa Summit aimed to revitalizing and partnership between ASEAN and Africa countries to promote peace and prosperity. Finally, let me conclude by stating that the world today rely on the UN to create a world order in peace and equitable prosperity. To guarantee a security for the global community and to fully implement the principle of human rights enshrine the UN Charter, and for that purpose, the UN needs all the support from each and every member. I thank you.
En nombre de la Asamblea.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I thank the Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia for the statement he has just made, and I request protocol to escort His Excellency.